The index gear that comes in the StoneTes faceting kit has 3 different indexes on one gear. The innermost circle is the 32 index, the middle circle is the 64 index, and the outer circle is the 96 index. The other thing you should know about this index gear, on the 32 index, 0 and 32 are the same point. So you have, counting up from 30, 31, 32, which is also 0. Likewise, on the 64 index, 64 and 0 are the same number. So counting up from 60, we have 61, 62, 63, and 64, which is also 0. And finally, on the outermost circle, which is the 96 index, 96 and 0 are the same number. In the video about faceting diagrams, I showed you how they had the diagram drawn up to use either the 32 index, 64 index, or the 96 index to cut the same stone. So let's use the index gear from the StoneTes faceting kit to try to briefly show how this was done. So going back to the portion of the faceting diagram that uses the 32 index, we see the first point we would facet at angle 42, and on the index gear the index number would be 1. On the index gear we would be looking at the 32 index, which is the innermost circle, and according to the diagram this would be the first point. Back to the diagram, and more specifically to the portion of the diagram that shows using the 64 index, we can look at the portion of the diagram that shows the angle and index of the first cut. In this case, the angle is still 42, but the index number is 2 rather than 1 like it was on the 32 index. Back on the index gear, we'll be looking for middle ring, the 64 index, and the first point that we will cut is going to be the index number 2. Back to the faceting diagram, we'll look at the portion of the diagram that uses the 96 index. The first facet we would cut is still a 42-degree angle, but the first index point is 3. On the index gear, we'd be using the outermost ring, which is the 96 index, and according to the faceting diagram, the first cut is going to be on the index of 3. I went over each of these points, one, to familiarize you with the faceting diagram, but I also wanted to show you the point on the 32 index, the 64 index, and the 96 index all makes a straight line. If your diagram offers you more than one index to use, pick the one you want to use before you start and don't change in the middle.